Good afternoon, I'm Vashan Brown with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. President of the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, Lynn Vern Wright, has given the thumbs down to the proposal for a return to the shift system in some schools when the new academic year begins in September. Minister with responsibility for education, Carl Samuda, yesterday said the ministry has been looking at several proposals, including the shift system, as it tries to comply with physical distancing requirements. Mr. Wright says while he understands the position the education ministry finds itself, putting students on shifts will create another set of problems.
The other options that people are looking at are like staggering the days. So, for example, you maybe have half of the students coming in today doing online learning, the other half doing online learning, and then the other half coming in tomorrow. Because the truth is that the shift system itself creates contact issues also, even though you're trying to deal with the physical distancing, dealing with it. Because if it is that students are going to be changing, say a school is 2,000 students, have 1,000 students changing. Schools already don't have enough space for students to actually wait for the shift to start. So a student who comes like a half an hour to an hour before would really be mixing with those students, and that's something that you wouldn't want given what we understand the health protocols to be right now.
Member of Parliament for St. Andrew South East, Julian Robinson, is raising concern about the reopening of early childhood institutions come this September. All schools are set to reopen come September 7. However, Mr. Robinson believes not all early childhood institutions will be able to reopen due to financial challenges. With the living with COVID-19 experience, schools are forced to adjust their physical operations, which may incur additional costs.
The running expenses have to be covered by the parents, who are generally from the lower socioeconomic group, and in many cases, and those of us in here would know the challenges of just keeping those institutions open. So my question is, what provisions have been made financially to support, if any, to support the early childhood institutions, particularly as they will have to make adjustments to their physical operations?
Mr. Robinson said the institutions are important, especially since the work-from-home order has expired and many parents are returning to the workplace. Therefore, he's appealing to the Education Ministry to provide assistance for these institutions. He was speaking at the recent sitting of the House of Representatives.
And I think there's a real grave danger that many of the basic schools, early childhood institutions, will not be able to reopen because they simply cannot find the resources, because the government has not provided any tangible support. So I'm asking the question but making a special appeal, because when we are asking persons to go back to work and they depend on these institutions to take care of their kids, many will simply fall by the wayside.
Visitors to Jamaica will be subjected to rigorous screening as part of protocols in place to manage the spread of the coronavirus. Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett says the screening will determine whether visitors are tested for the coronavirus. His comment follows yesterday's revelation that the government faced objections from airlines and the Regional Tourist Association to have mandatory coronavirus testing for tourists entering the island. Mr. Bartlett, who was speaking on the morning agenda on Power 106 FM, explained that persons will only be allowed to proceed to hotels if they show no symptoms of the coronavirus.
As a result of the screening, we will then determine whether testing is recommended, and if testing is done, the necessary isolation that follows until the result of the test is made known, and the status of the person after the test will determine whether they are sent straight to their hotels or straight home, and or are put into quarantine and or medical attention.
An admission this afternoon from the Prime Minister that the security forces are stretched due to their involvement in the pandemic response, as well as their crime-fighting efforts such as states of emergency and zones of special operations. More in this report from O'Shane Masters.
You see them executing curfew and physical distancing orders, as well as traffic monitoring and in crime hotspots on SOE and ZOZO operations. By even the Prime Minister's admission, The security forces have had their hands full over the last few months.
The security forces are stretched now. They are conducting double lines of effort. They are trying to help with the logistics and management of the pandemic, in addition to maintaining the safety and security of citizens.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness was responding to concerns about the state of crime, especially murders in the country. When compared to the 553 murders up to June 1 last year, 550 persons have been murdered so far this year, a 0.5% reduction. Of the 19 police divisions, 11 of them recorded decreases. Another 7 experienced increases in murders, while the Manchester division recorded exact figures of 17 murders.
Give some credit to our security forces. It is not just that there is a pandemic alone which would have caused that to happen, but our security forces continue to operate, and we see the effects of that in the increased recovery of firearms and ammunition, and arresting and bringing to justice wanted men and other criminals who are at large in our society.
Mr. Holness said the fight against crime never took a backseat to the COVID-19 pandemic because they never expected criminals to take a break. In addition to murders, the other 5 major crime categories, including robberies and shootings, also decreased. Machine Masters, TVJ News.
And we now take a break on the midday news, but we'll be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Continuing the news now. Farmers of Somerset District in St. Thomas are seeking help to get their livelihood back after a fire gutted crops and threatened the community church, school, and a few homes nearby. Farmers are now left with nothing. We have more in this report.
We the farmers from Somerset, we need help.
A small community of farmers crying out for help. This was a fire on farmlands along the hillside of Somerset last week. These were images taken by residents. Farmers have now lost livestock and crops. According to residents, around 2 p.m. last Monday, the fire started, and numerous calls were made to the fire department. After hours of waiting, a small vehicle with 2 firefighters and inadequate equipment showed up, providing very little help. Residents had to take matters into their own hands. It wasn't until the next day that the fire was completely out, leaving residents exhausted and angry with the fire department.
The fire started from about 9 o'clock Monday morning, and I've called the fire department, and until now they don't turn up, and if they turn up for the time I've called them, it will have never damaged the people them farm. And we are appealing and begging for your support.
Our news team visited the area Monday, and this was the aftermath. They are now seeking help.
It is so desperate. We are depending on it because it we use and send our children to school. So we are begging and appealing to all the ministers to come and see and do what they can do for us, because if it's not our livelihood, we don't know what we're going to depend on.
Fire raised and burn down the whole of my coffee, the gungo, every little thing, banana planting, every little thing. I don't like some help, some ceiling that I can go back in and plant again.
Church, I know my ground burn. I mean, never get a seed from nobody. No matter what go on, me no get nothing. So you see right now, Brother Sagan, I tell you say, we don't like a help. Tell the media whoever, we need help.
While the cause of the fire is unknown, it's understood that the area is prone to fire.
I bought no 3 times up at that place, and I don't think I'm going to plant back no staple crop on it, because it's a fireplace at every year fire light there. So I've got to start all over again. So all I'm going to do is just plant back some gungo and some pumpkin. That's it.
Kalisha Williams, TVJ News.
A fresh call this afternoon for persons to avoid contact with crocodiles. The warning follows concerns that some persons may be trying to pet the reptiles. The matter was addressed by the National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA, during their ongoing Awareness Week activities.
It is estimated that 1,000 crocodiles live in the wild in Jamaica. They are generally located in the wetlands of the south coast, with smaller populations on the north coast. But now the reptiles are beginning to appear in places they are not expected to be. The National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA, says persons are trying to make these reptiles their pets. This 3-feet-long crocodile they call Sharon was found in Upper St. Andrew.
It's really strange to have a crocodile in somewhere like Stony Hill out of the norm. And what we suspect, and we're pretty sure of this, is that someone actually captured this crocodile from the coast, brought it up as a pet, which is a complete no-no, and somehow it got away and got into a creek. And we're pretty sure that is the story, because crocodiles do not occur up in Temple Hall, up in Stony Hill. So people, don't worry yourself, there are no crocs up there.
It is unclear how long it was exposed to people while in captivity. Therefore, it will be some time before it is released back into the wild. Too early, and it could be drawn to people because of its prior training, and that could spell disaster.
So we're not sure how much habitualized it is to humans. So this is not really an ideal candidate for immediate release. And so, Sharon, we're watching her behavior and see what we can do. We're going to assess her over.
NEPA says it is still working to reduce the incidence of persons who capture or kill crocodiles. People catch and kill them for meat as well as for their eggs, which are thought to improve sexual drive. Prince Moore, TVJ News.
Interesting. And here now is a preview of what's coming up in this evening's Health Report.
In the next edition of the Health Report, we look at computer vision syndrome.
We actually did a study at the university here looking at the undergraduates in terms of the percentage of people who suffer from computer vision syndrome, and almost 70% of our undergraduates in medical school and the other faculties actually suffer from this, but it is underdiagnosed. And it's just simple changes with your computer screen time, limiting your computer screen time, taking frequent breaks, making sure that your chair is comfortable, will actually reduce the chances of you getting computer vision syndrome.
That's the Health Report this evening in Primetime News. And now for today's healthy living tip. Improve your posture through exercise. Keep your eyes hydrated. Adjust the lighting around your screens and take frequent breaks from screen work.
Time now for sports. Jamaica Scorpions head coach Andre Coley says there's a planned meeting with Jamaica Scorpions players over recently announced cuts in cricket funding by Cricket West Indies. Shoshana McGowan tells us more.
The regional board on Friday announced a 50% cut across the entire regional cricket system, including territorial boards and franchises. Coley says they will get feedback from the players about the recent announcement before beginning training for the new season.
I mean, a lot has been said about contracts and duration and even some suggestion around indication around pay cuts, salary cuts. Those are things that will give the players an opportunity to hear their concerns and share that with them, give them as much information as possible so that we can prepare themselves for the next 6 months, because all of us are in it. So before we actually come out and we are comfortable here, that everything is in place so everybody can be safe and we can operate as a group effectively, then we won't start.
The announced cuts will also affect the West Indies Players Association, WIPA, and Secretary Wayne Lewis says they're currently negotiating with CWI to change their position.
But we understand the situation and we understand that there has to be some kind of cut. But we have written to them yesterday with a proposal and some suggestion as to how it will be done. I'm not privy at the moment to give you information as to exactly what's WIPA's position, other than the fact that I can say that, yes, we have a counter proposal to them, and we're hoping and waiting from, our Cricket West Indies to come back to us.
Lewis says there's also the issue of outstanding payments to some players who are yet to receive some of their match fees. Trishana McGowan, TVJ Sports.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Vashon Brown. Join us at 7 for Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.